Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, man. I just keep coming, man. It is your boy Lewis, and I'm back again with yet another video. But before I start this video, make sure you guys, know what the deal is. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that notification bell to make sure you're getting the latest and greatest content from me. As always, I just always want to say thank you, and I love and appreciate you guys for always taking the time to watch the videos, and I always appreciate the comments that you guys leave me on terms of your insight on the video. I love and appreciate you guys as always. So let's get right into this story right now, into this video. So this one is going to be about why I feel that Shaquille O'Neal, his career is actually more overrated than you actually think. Now, before I start and I go on about why Shaq is a little bit overrated in my eyes, Shaq is one of the greatest centers in the NBA. He's one of the greatest in NBA history. He was the most dominant center of his time. When Shaq was in his prime, he was damn near unstoppable. So let me get that. Also, I'm going to say Shaq was the best player of the Lakers' 3 championship teams. So let me repeat myself when I say this. Shaq was the best player of the first 3 championship Laker teams in the 2000s when they three-peated. Kobe Bryant was not the best player. Kobe Bryant even said in their sit-down interview that it was not his time to be the man on the Lakers. It was Shaq's team. So to get that clear out of the way, I'm not here being a Kobe stan or a Kobe fanboy saying Kobe, but I will say that Kobe's impact is what helped made it easier for Shaq, and that it made those two highly unguardable once Kobe reached his peak in terms of being much more difficult to defend, because he can now not only hit you with the jump shot, but he can drive to the basket. Kobe's game was mixed. So because of that, it made it easier for Shaq to get easy touches because Kobe could penetrate, so the lanes can open up. The attention comes off of Shaq, and now Kobe becomes the main focal point because Kobe can circle anywhere around the floor, and then it would give Shaq easy baskets. So yes, Shaq was the best player. Shaq had the dominant finals, but a lot of it had to do with the fact that, as I've said in the video, Shaq was not carrying Kobe. He carried him, I will say, in the 2000 championship. Definitely, Kobe was a sidekick to Shaq in 2000. But 2001, 2002, no. You could even make the case, and I tell you, Kobe did his best basketball, and he was balling in the earlier rounds. So it wasn't mostly in the finals, and then the thing was he took a back seat, because the Eastern Conference did not have really any centers that can guard Shaq consistently. And when you look at the Western Conference, they had multiple bigs that can swarm Shaquille O'Neal. So yeah, Shaq is dominant because of the points in the paint, and he's going to get that kind of attention. But remember, at the time, Kobe was psychic. Once Kobe developed into the player he became, people started paying attention to focusing on trying to take out Kobe Bryant more than they did with Shaquille O'Neal. But still, Shaq was the best player. But why do I think Shaq's career is a little bit more overrated? Well, when you look at Shaq's career, Shaq should actually have more rings, and Shaq should have scored more points and should have had more rebounds. The reason that Shaq is his career is actually very disappointing, even though his Hall of Fame numbers are very impressive. That's what's so crazy about Shaq. Shaq left a lot on the table. One of the biggest reasons of Shaq, it was his mindset, in the fact that Shaq was very lazy. And this was after that he stayed himself in playing shape that entire time, trying to chase a championship. Now, when you look at Shaq, if you remember, Shaq was drafted as the number 1 overall pick in the 1992 draft by the Orlando Magic. And he was going to lead the Orlando Magic into the future. And in the future, where eventually the Magic would become a perennial contending team, and that they would compete for championships for years to come once the Warriors drafted Penny Hardaway and traded Chris Webber for him to go to the Magic to pair with Shaq. Shaq makes it to the NBA Finals in just his 3rd season, with that very good Orlando Magic team. They get swept in the NBA Finals to Hakeem Olajuwon, the better center at the time, in his prime, on top of the fact that Hakeem was the most dominant center in the NBA at the time, and he's arguably the most skilled center in NBA history. So Shaq had to go against that, and Shaq was really raw. If you look at Shaq's career, Shaq is mostly known about power and about dunking. Now, when he was with the Magic, there were some moves that he could do, but he was really raw. He was just a guy that was just more so of an athletic specimen. If you really think about it, it may sound kind of far-fetched, but this is what you can kind of compare him to LeBron James, in the fact that they're very dominant. They're not guys that they don't really have fine-tuned offensive games. Shaq is mostly athletic. He's a bruiser and he can dunk the basketball. Now, when he went to the Lakers after Michael Jordan had returned to the NBA in the 95-96 season in terms of a full season, because he did come back in 95, but it was only for the last 17 games, Shaq's Magic won 60 games in 96, with Penny making first-team All-NBA in his second and third seasons, respectively. He was first-team All-NBA with MJ, which tells you what kind of player Penny Hardaway was. On top of the fact that the Magic went 39-2 at home in back-to-back seasons. At one point, they won 40 consecutive home games from 95 to 96. So they had a dominant run at home. They were 78-4 in the 2 years back-to-back in their home building. Their issues was they had always had problems winning on the road. And with Shaq, you could always foul him. You could kind of do the hack of Shaq. And you have to make him shoot free throws because you know Shaq is notoriously a poor free throw shooter. But why do I say that Shaq is disappointing is because Michael Jordan ended up winning in 96 and ended up sweeping the Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals, which caused Shaq to end up leaving. So there's a myth going around that Shaq only left because of the money on the table and that he was an opportunity and championship chaser. But the key thing was, with MJ at full strength, MJ with his body condition and in basketball shape, and then you add Dennis Rodman, and then you have the supporting cast of great role players along with Jordan's sidekick and Scottie Pippen, who was a great player in his own right. With that Bulls team, they just swept the Magic right off the floor to the point that they really couldn't compete, because as long as Michael Jordan was on the floor, as long as he was in that conference, there was no way Shaq was going to get past those guys, because if you notice, the Bulls three-peated. So even if the Magic were to be competitive, unless they get a player that puts them over the top on their team, or at least with their bench, they weren't going to be able to beat the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan. So LA, Shaq, the crazy part is that, and nobody really talks about this, look at the guys that Shaq was losing to. He lost to Hakeem in the 95 finals. He lost to Karl Malone and the Utah Jazz back-to-back years in 97 and 98. When Shaq was the best player on the team. And at the time, Kobe Bryant wasn't even starting. And Eddie Jones was the shooting guard, starting two guard. Where the Lakers were a talented team, but they could never play a full 48-minute game. And they were not a great defensive team. They showed flashes of a good defensive team, but they focused on offense. And they were not mentally tough. They were mentally fragile. So they lose back-to-back years. They lose 8 out of 9 to Utah. So they lose to Karl Malone, power forward. The mainstay. Hakeem, then to Michael, then to Karl Malone, back-to-back years. And then in 99 in the lockout season, they lose in the second round to the San Antonio Spurs with a young, prime Tim Duncan. So look at this right now, right here. Shaq is the most dominant player from 96 to probably 99 in the late 90s, right? And in the early 2000s. So from 96 to about 2003, I would say, Shaq was the most dominant center in the NBA. But what's so crazy is that during that time, Shaq lost to Hakeem, he lost to Karl Malone, Michael Jordan, and he lost to Tim Duncan. 3 of those 4 players are bigs, which is pretty crazy. In Shaq's playoff career, up until 2000, Shaq had lost to 3 bigs and 1 guard. He wins 3 championships with Kobe Bryant after Phil Jackson comes in, and the Lakers, they three-peat. Shaq wins 3 Finals MVPs. In 2000, Shaq had an unbelievable season. Shaq ends up winning the MVP. He didn't get it unanimously, but he should have won it, which was unfortunate. But it doesn't happen. And then what's crazy is that Shaq should have conditioned his body a lot better. And the crazy part is Shaq, Tim Duncan and Hakeem Olajuwon have made way more defensive teams than Shaquille O'Neal. You know what's even crazier than that? Shaq has made only second-team defense. Shaq has never made a first team all defense at all in his career. On top of the fact that also Shaq did not condition his body to the level that he should have. Had he done that, Shaq would have been more impactful and would have won more championships because of the fact that he garnered so much attention because of how dominant he was. And he was the most dominant of his time. And he lost to Tim Duncan again in 2003. So the crazy part was Shaq, on his watch, lost 3 championships, 2 to Tim Duncan and 1 to Hakeem Olajuwon and 1 to Michael Jordan. So that's 4 potential championships right there. And in 2004, he ended up losing to Detroit by taking out Kobe Bryant out of that series, and he shot 38%. And he struggled. But Shaq at that point was out of shape by the time 2001, 2002 rolled around. Shaq was already weighing 380 pounds, and he had a numerous amount of injuries. But that's because Shaq was very lazy and he didn't condition himself. He didn't care about, he honestly was done after 1 championship. The only reason that he kept playing for more was because of what people were saying, oh, can he get another one? Because Kareem had criticized Shaq and said, as great of a dominant player as he is, he hasn't won a championship. And Shaq had wanted to be known as one of the greatest Lakers ever in NBA, in Laker history, because he wanted his jersey up there. But a part of it was Shaq's work ethic. It's a reason why Shaq didn't achieve as much as he did, because he could have achieved a lot more. 28,000? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Over 10,000 rebounds? Absolutely. But the fact that he didn't commit himself to defense like he should have. I will say this, in the championship seasons, he did play good enough defensively to where he was able to be impactful and help the team win 3 straight championships. But the thing was also, Shaq became such a journeyman after he got traded from LA to Miami, and then from Miami to Phoenix, and then from Phoenix to Cleveland, and then from Cleveland to what's the last team that he went to? Oh, to Boston, where he ended his career. Ended up tearing his Achilles, but at that point he had bad knees. He tore his Achilles. He was really overweight, and then he was done. And he could have been the all-time leading scorer in NBA history. He probably would have been over Kareem. And this is Shaq with not really having like a skill set. Like, Shaq has skills, but it's like he was mostly known for his athleticism. He wasn't a guy. He was known for having power moves. Like, he wasn't a guy that could turn around and hit you like with a little fadeaway jump shot. And if it was like with the right, with his one hand. But not saying Shaq was good. Shaq was dominant. But I'm saying, like, when you look at skills, I put Tim Duncan and Hakeem Olajuwon ahead of him. And that's why I have both of them ahead of Shaq in my list. Because as great as Shaq was, the problem is that he did not do enough for me to put him over the top. And both of those guys, like I said, they have all defensive selections than Shaq. They're better two-way players. They can bring it at both ends. Shaq brought it on the defensive end when he wanted to, but he was mostly known about dunking the basketball on the offense. The offense worked best when the offense was centered around him in his career with Phil Jackson and with the Lakers and with Kobe Bryant. But that's why I say that. and the notion was that Shaq carried Kobe, but yet just with Pau Gasol, I'm gonna tell you this: look how many guys Shaq lost to. He lost to Hakeem, he lost to Tim twice, and he lost to Michael Jordan, and he lost to Karl Malone. And if you look at it, in 95, 96, 97, and 98, and 99, 5 years straight, those teams went to the finals on Shaq's watch, bro, as being the best player. So he definitely could have won more for sure. And that's why I said that I hate this narrative that's saying to be disrespecting our Kobe Bryant. Because, again, he was not the best player on the Lakers. It was Shaq. But I'm going to tell you, did Shaq win with Penny Hardaway? And the Magic, again, had 2 very good seasons where they made the finals and they went to the conference finals. So they were good enough to compete for a championship. But again, their inability to win on the road, and Shaq was a good leader, but I'm not going to say he was a great leader. But he definitely was dominant. Also, as like I said, he lost a lot to the other players on his watch, and Shaq could have been Again, he could have had a much better career. He probably would have won a lot more accolades had he put a lot more focus into conditioning his body real well and taking the game seriously. Because he took the game seriously when he didn't win. It was when he win, he was a lot more lackadaisical. Because like I said, his mindset, and that's the thing, he was too goofy and jokey. His mindset, he was already done after the first ring. So that's why his career kind of plummeted and kind of fell short to where it could have been a lot better. I mean, I think he actually could have helped LeBron win a championship had he stayed in shape. I'm not going to say, like I said, he was getting past his prime, but I think he could have contributed a lot more, and it wasn't like enough at this point. So, and that's why I hate the notion that Kobe Bryant gets like such a knock for trying to be the best player that he can be and trying to be, an alpha. The thing is, when you look at it, the fact that Shaq got lazy gave Kobe the open door. Shaq was the one who really opened the door for Kobe to kind of push him out of LA. And that's why Kobe kind of took shots at him in the media. And the thing is, probably a lot of it is true. So he could have, like I said, Shaq honestly could have closed the door. But he chose to leave it open, and that's exactly what happened. But anyway, so that's why I said that I think that Shaq's career is more disappointing because he really could have done a lot more in terms of his career. But anyway, once again, this is Lewis checking back in with another video. I love and appreciate you guys. Let me know what you guys think. You thought Shaq's, did he achieve enough in your opinion? Or could Shaq probably could have done more? Because for me, we don't know what Shaq could have probably done had he been healthy. But I will say his impact was big because he went to South Beach and won with Dwayne Wade and Kobe Bryant. He didn't win with Penny Hardaway. So what I'm saying is, without Kobe, after Kobe, Shaq didn't win any finals MVPs, and he only won one championship. Kobe won 2 finals MVPs, 2 championships, and went to 3 straight finals. Yes, he had Pau Gasol, but what I'm telling you is Kobe was able to win one more than Shaq, and he'll always have that on him. But anywho, again, this is Lewis, man, checking back in. I love and appreciate you guys as always. Take some time for watching the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Did Shaq achieve more? Did he achieve enough, or could you would have thought he achieved a lot more? But he's definitely a great player. Dominated. Man, I can't wait, man. All right, so once again, you guys take care, man. This is Lewis checking in once again. Have a great night. Peace.